Hi there, and thank you for joining us for more. Redundant, really, to have a show about such an obvious part of life, and yet we do. Our show explores, through candid discussion, how self-awareness leads to more. Recently, I had a real-life example with a client who also watches the show. More, in his case, exists mainly in his mind by way of thoughts, intentions, beliefs, and values. Even as a concept, though, this pursuit of more can be really powerful and informative, to the degree such factors are indeed considered in our day-to-day lives. Margins, profits, ROIs, due diligence are the usual words in the vocabulary and minds of a fair number of my clients. Like you, most of them don't have the luxury to ponder and or reflect over what they'd really like to have, be, do in life. Action, survival, expediency, favors, and advancement are the battle cries that most of us live by. Integrity is value, and it's one that everyone wants to have. It's kind of like they consider all the values available and pick the ones that will elicit the most respect. In my opinion, which may not, of course, be accurate, it seems like integrity as a pursuit is the value that can change our lives. Integrity is what more is about. It's a bitch of a value because it demands that we walk the walk, not just say the right words, and not only in certain areas of our lives. Going back to the real-life example with my client and his businesses, or any of us with our busy lives, we may try to tell ourselves that finding more is a luxury. But if that's the case, and if I connect the dots on this, the implication is that integrity itself is a luxury value. That doesn't sound right, and I don't think any of us want to think of it that way. So which areas of your life do you want more integrity? Is it in your career? Personal growth? Finances? Your relationship with your significant other? Is it the environment around you? Is it your health? How about fun? Or is it your family and friends? If you want to have more than you currently do, and if you want to be more than you have already allowed yourself to be, reflection and objective accountability have to be integrated into your life. So demand high levels of integrity from yourself, for yourself, and do it more consistently than you do now. Joining us today is my good friend and mentor, Dr. Colleen Braun, a clinical psychologist, consultant, and coach. She's the president of Bion Consulting, an international consulting business. She's come in to join us today from Calgary, Alberta, and Colleen, she's done it all, and it would take too long to mention the diversity of her experiences. I can tell you that among her credits, Dr. Braun contributes to more than 60 publications in international journals. She does presentations throughout North America. She's an honorary assistant professor and is listed in Who's Who worldwide and Who's Who in the professional speaking circles. Currently, she holds status as a registered clinical psychologist in Alberta, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, and Nunavut, and the Northwest Territories. Thank you for joining us today, Colleen. It is an honor.
Thank you for inviting me, Shiva.
Colleen, Bion Consulting. I know that you chose that name for a specific reason, but the others don't. So I'd like you to talk to us a little bit about why you chose that word and what it means to you.
Well, Bion has a specific meaning. Bion is an organism that's able to adapt to its environment. And a lot of the work I do is with people who are injured or in chronic pain, and so they have to adapt to a whole new world. So I believe that it's helpful there, but I believe that the concept of Bion, adapting to your environment, whatever that might be, is part of what I want to contribute.
And because I know you so well, Colleen, I'm going to take a few liberties, and I'm going to...
No doubt.
I want to ask you more about that because, sorry if I just kicked you, because I also know that you have a really strong value in integrity, and I'm curious how Bion as a concept and integrity kind of interface.
Well, I think what you said earlier about being congruent, doing what you say, that's how I define integrity. And I believe that's what the company is about too, the concept of Bion, being congruent with whatever environment you find yourself to be in.
And so the integrous piece in that would be what? Integrity and kind of being congruous to our environments. Which dictates which, I guess is what I'm wondering.
I don't know what would come first. I mean, our environment's constantly changing, and if we try to hold on to the way things were, we're always going to be either ahead or behind of the curve. So I think this is about being adaptable and flexible, but yet being true to yourself.
So it's really no relationship to a value such as integrity, because it's an issue in of itself of just that ability to adapt.
It is ability to adapt, but I think that you have to adapt with your own value system in mind. It's a moving target. The world is changing around us, so our set of values, even though the basic values may be there, how they play out may change over time.
That's an excellent point. And I guess if we think in the context of more, and you being on this show, reality is we all want more of something in our lives. So give us a little sense of you. What is it you're wanting more of for yourself, Colleen?
Well, I would love to have more time. Unfortunately, we're all saddled with 24 hours a day, so I try to make the most of the time I have. I'm very conscious of wasting my time or wasting the time of other people. So if I don't come through a day with a sense that I've accomplished something or learned something, I feel that the day was a failure. It doesn't have to be just papers processed or something like that. In fact, that would be sort of a loss of a day for me, but feeling that I've made a difference somehow, or that life has made a difference in me.
So is time what's going to make that happen, or is that really, what is that really about?
Well, obviously time isn't doing it. It's about making the most of the time we have. And I think that probably it's a function of getting older that we realize that there's a limit to what we can do. So I'm conscious, probably I operate in a different time zone from many people, but I'm so aware of all the potential out there and so many things to do. So how do I channel my energy to make the most of the time I have available? So I'm very, I don't know, I guess I'm disappointed if I feel that I haven't made the most of time.
Wow, and that says a lot about you. Especially, you kind of put that on the heels of potential and wanting to maximize what your potential is.
And maximize the potential of others. I've operated with a personal mission statement for, 20 years now. And that mission statement is about helping myself and others realize their potential, whatever that might be.
Wow. Colleen, I'm going to ask you to just to hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back. Please join us.
When do we cover news at Dex TV? When it's relevant and when it has context. Dex TV broadcasts live from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. the entire North American business day. We look at long-term trends by delivering proactive and purposeful coverage. For catching up on world events, The Close is Dex TV's daily finale, combining all the key news in a comprehensive end-of-day package. Our detailed archives allow you to search through all of our shows, segments, and interviews. Information when you want it, at any time, on demand. Visit us at dex.tv.
Hi, welcome back to More. I'm Sheba Varghese, and joining us today is Dr. Colleen Braun of Bion Consulting. Colleen, just to pick up where we left off, when I asked you what it is you're seeking more of, you said, first start with time, and then we kind of went into more feelings of self-satisfaction or of service or of being useful to others. So maybe, sir, I just want to make sure that I get a clearer sense of what it is that you yourself are seeking more of.
I learned a long time ago that whenever I have a plan, life will intervene and change it for me. So I don't really know what more would look like. I want to be open to the possibilities and the potential, make myself flexible, and to capitalize on whatever comes along.
When did you start? Do you remember when you kind of became intentional?
Oh, I think I've probably always been intentional, but not always looking at, I guess, self-actualization, for lack of a better word. I've always been intentional about getting things done, taking care of people, building a business, but I've gotten to a point now where becoming intentional really means enjoying life. Along the way, I enjoy my work. I love what I do, so that's part of this. But seeing as much as I can of the world, meeting as many people along the way, being open to those possibilities.
Well, when we were talking today at lunchtime, I know you were really talking about turning up the volume on this pursuit, wanting to make it as passionate as you are, as alive as you are. So you're hiding some of that from us right now. Bring that, because you have so much energy around your pursuits for more, without even knowing what specifically they want. But I heard you talk about things that you are now demanding for yourself as kind of a stepping block, if you will, or part of the process.
I think that one of the things that's become really important to me is the people that I allow into my life. I mean, because of the work I do, I meet so many different people, and thank God I learn something from almost everyone I meet along the way. But the people that I really want to share my life with, I'm demanding more of them. I guess this is an investment in myself, that the people that will occupy my passions and my sense of adventure, they have to meet a certain criteria.
And how does that give you more? What will that give you more of?
Well, they're going to respond to me. They're going to allow me to be who I am without self-censoring or without wondering about what I should say or do. They'll let me be unbridled and enjoy as much as and take risks with me. That's important. How much
of that do you wait for before you let yourself be, Colleen?
I guess it depends on where I am. You and I have spent a lot of today talking about Africa, and Africa is, although it's a fabulous country and I love every moment of it, I think what I love most about Africa is me in Africa, because there I'm so detached from the world at large that it doesn't matter what else is going on out there. I can't do anything about it. And I can be in the moment. Nobody cares. You have a different sense of priority. The world is so large, and you have to pay attention to where you're going, not worry about the future or the past, but be in the moment. And I think that being in the moment is an art some people develop long before now, but for me, I find it mostly in Africa.
So if we were to say that Africa was just a metaphor.
It is.
And so what would the metaphor, what's a takeaway that you can apply now that you're not in Africa?
Try to be in the moment. And
but what does that mean, to try to be in the moment? What does that mean you kind of are aware that you want to be doing more of, to be more intentional about?
First off, I have to apologize for using the word try. I'm always slapping people's hands. There is no try. You either do it or you don't.
So shall I slap your hand?
Bad, Colleen, bad. In any event, no, I think it's noticing things. First off, we get so consumed with things that we're supposed to be doing that we're not in the moment. My office in Calgary has 2 walls of windows, floor to ceiling, facing the mountains. And I've got my desk positioned in a way that I can notice what's going on. All of my clients have to pass that view getting in there. And when they're back to the mountains, I said, what did they look like today? It's maybe 1 in 100 that is even noticed. So I want to have those visions, noticing what's around me, whatever it is. And that's something that we so often miss, but yeah, that's part of what makes a day, rich.
That's interesting, because you make me think of a friend, Craig Shannon, who is a managing director at National Bank, and he always says to notice the trees.
Yeah, trees, whatever. Just anything different,
But why? What does that do?
It brings you back we get into this zone where we're focused on what needs to be done before 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. We're running life on an agenda.
But you just said yourself that you allow that to happen to you.
I do.
So intellectually and theoretically, I get what you're saying. How do you find that for yourself, Colleen, you kind of address that conflict?
by simply making myself notice. I remind myself to notice. I work on a 60-minute hour. I can pretty much tell you when 55 minutes has passed. It's ingrained in me now. So,
so is that a good thing or a bad thing?
well, it's a useful thing. I don't know if it's good or bad, so I
Sure.
don't have to be looking
Sure,
at my
sure, sure.
watch to see how we're doing. But no, just breaking away from that to look at what's around me. It doesn't matter if it's the smile on somebody's face or the mountains. Or I'm very much attuned to nature, so I live in a good place for that. The movement of the clouds doesn't matter, but it brings me out of what I have to do into the world around me.
You talked about the people and being more conscious, if you will, or selective, if that could even be better, of who you're letting into your world and what your expectations are of them. Mm-hmm. So without getting into any specifics, where would you notice you've become the most clear on what it is that you'll accept and what you won't?
Well, the whole issue of integrity, and again, everyone has to define that for themselves, but I'm expecting people to be what they say they are. I would like to be able to trust people on face value. That's probably just a matter of blind optimism, because what people say and what they do may be a big disconnect there. But I'd like to trust, and if somebody isn't congruent with what they say, I don't want to make my time available for that. If someone's up front, their values don't have to mesh with mine, but at least I know how much of that person I want to invest. I can be clear about that. When it looks like all the possibilities are there and you let your guard down and you give a lot of yourself, well, you have to be choosy about that.
Well, we will pick up on that because there's some interesting points that you raised. But right now, we're going to stop again. We're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back for more with Colleen Braun.
Why watch Dex TV? We understand your mindset as a producer and that you are looking for more. Dex TV delivers economic news with a human context. It is time financial news told you more than just the numbers. Why something happens begins with people, those who make decisions, those who produce, those who create value. We delve into the bigger issues that affect business around the world before you see the trend. Visit us at dex.tv.
Welcome back. You're watching More, and I'm Sheba Varghese here with Colleen Braun. Dr. Colleen Braun, actually. Colleen, you said some things. You talked about being more demanding, if you will. You didn't use that word because you're far too appropriate and kind. But you want to be more demanding in some key areas of your life. And so I want to because on one hand you're saying, so my terms, this is what I expect. I expect integrity. If you say it, do it. Whatever you're going to say. But then I can't help but wonder, is there an intolerance with that? Or is it a permission piece with that you finally have allowed yourself to say, you know what, this is what I want and I'm going to demand it?
Well, I think we can all demand whether or not we get. I mean, I do have my standards. I don't think, Sheba, that you and I have ever had a conversation that didn't include men. So I think that's probably what you're trying to get me to talk about is my standards for men. I have things that I appreciate in men. Somebody that's clever, somebody that has a sense of adventure, someone that has a certain look about them. I'm shallow, what can I say?
But
at the same time, it's, the deal breaker is integrity. And all of those other things could be in place. But if the person isn't congruent with what they say they're about and the way they live their life, that's where I cut where I draw the line.
Where's responsibility in a situation like that for one's own integrity, where one is able to, based on their own levels of self-awareness, be able to have that kind of clarity to know what to look for in other people? Kind of, again, is it a chicken or egg kind of scenario? Or
I think that, again, this is another developmental issue. If you were to look at it from a theoretical perspective, it might be sort of a Maslow concept that we have to get to a certain point to have a certain number of our needs met before we can have the luxury of looking around at some of these more esoteric pursuits.
I reject that. I know what Maslow says, and so I take the meat and I spit out the bones in it, because I don't necessarily, because I can say that I haven't seen that it played out that way. It wasn't that before certain factors were considered and accounted for, that only then I was able to dare to dream and to question. I think that is a hardwiring issue. I have just been a questioner my whole life. And so that's from a me perspective. But now if we take it out to the audience and to people in general, I guess there's a convenience there in terms of being able to hide behind the thought or the idea, well, I'm not yet here. I have to focus on just, putting bread on the table before I can ask myself, who do I want to be breaking that bread with?
I hear what you say, and I agree with it. In premise, I think that I have always had my eye on the goal. Not knowing what that goal would be. I grew up on a soybean farm in northwest Ohio, probably the last person that you would expect to have lived pretty much everywhere on earth. So I've wanted that my whole life, and there aren't many psychologists that are all over the place either, but I found a way to make that happen. So I haven't lost sight of that, but I also had responsibilities to other people. And if I bring people into the world, if I'm talking about my children, my family, I have to put them first. It doesn't mean that I'm not attentive to my goals, and I always have been. But I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I felt that I had somehow not given them the best chance they had to maximize their life. Now they're more taking care of themselves. And at this point, there's less to distract me from that goal. So I'm going for it. I want to get it right before game over. I'm not sure what right looks like. But again, I just want to stay looking at the possibilities.
And I guess I'm just not really sure where that kind of, it's almost, there's a vagueness around that. There's no definitiveness. And I know you said that you don't believe in planning anymore because there's really no, life intervenes. And so that's not necessarily going to make a difference. But there's got to be some kind of, at least in my mind, and of course, correct me, please, Colleen, if that's where you want to do. It seems like there's got to be more of a roadmap of some kind. And I'm curious, what is your roadmap for Colleen?
A roadmap, a sense of direction. I've always had some objectives that I'm getting to. I want to write. I want to tap that creative side of me, and that doesn't depend on anyone else. And whether or not I find someone that's going to mesh with all of my life goals, I have to be true to myself, and at least I'll have that satisfaction.
That is a great roadmap. So that's excellent, and that's a perfect note for us to end this interview on, which I'm sorry I have to do. Obviously,
we'll carry on.
We will, over dinner. Thank you for joining us, Colleen. You are great. Your openness, your sincerity, your intellect and warmth, they all just are so enjoyable to have on the show. So thank you for sharing with us.
And thank you.
I read once that Carl Jung had these words hanging above his office door, that God, invoked or uninvited, is always present. We don't speak about God specifically when we discuss more on this show, and yet, as Jung's words point out, whether or not we attribute more directly to him or not, he is always present. He works in relationships. He's where anyone seeks truth for their lives, and that is what more is, in a nutshell, is about. It's about integrity, collaboration, objective accountability, and truth. More may start as an intellectual concept. It did for me. When I took the time to learn about what integrity was and how it could change my life, it stopped just being about intellectual awareness, and it became a pursuit, a hunger, and it did change my life. Ultimately, we're not meant to take this journey alone. The best fruit is always at the top of the tree, and our chances of reaching it for ourselves are greater if we're working with a neutral, objective third party who has no vested interest in anything but you reaching your objectives? I'm often asked, who needs a coach? Because people wonder if self-selecting compromises anything. I tell them it's not about who needs a coach, and it's more about who wants someone to assist them as they become who they were created to be, and better than they are now. As a result of the show's focus around self-awareness, new clients, unlikely types, are asking me to work with them, and it's great, it's inspiring, it's exciting to work with people who know they are good in what they do and are now ready to seek greatness in who they be. For various reasons, including travel commitments to my clients, this will be our last show for the season, but the blogging will continue. So if you'd like to learn more about how to work with us at Forward Focus Incorporated, you are invited to use the blog to contact us. And it can be about anything related to the show. Dr. Colleen Braun is also a coach, and if you'd like to work with her or learn more about her organization, please visit her website or again contact us and we will get you hooked up with her. So until our paths cross again, my hope for us all is that our actions be steeped in integrity and that truth is the light by which we lead. I thank you very much for joining us each week and sincerely look forward to picking up where we left off. Thank you.